Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Coach Dave Time Attack Season 4 finale here at the one and only Misano Circuit. My name is Daniel Handover, and I will be taking you through the runnings of tonight, along with the Coach Dave Academy analyst James Parker, and as well Jack on the broadcast duties as well. So, James, quickly going to you as well. Obviously, you've been around with the season as well, obviously, for the seasons before. So just talk us through, for people that are just joining us, talk us through the Time Attack series and how this format actually works.
Yeah, so good evening, everyone. So basically tonight the top 15 in Q1 will be the target. So all the drivers in Q1 will be aiming for that top 15 spot. Then Q2, the top 10 is the cutoff. So everyone will be aiming for that kind of top 10 space. And then we get to the juicy part towards the end of the session. And so, we get to the cutoff for Super Pole, which is the top 5. And then the pressure really starts dialing in at the very end when we have obviously that 2-lap shootout for the top 5 and it's then down to who can nail the lap.
Indeed. So it all comes down. If you're if you're a strong qualifier, then this is certainly the format, and this is the event that you actually want to take part in. But let's talk about Misano first. I mean, Misano, what a circuit it is. 16 corners. It's just it's a fast circuit. There's also got some technical areas as well. Obviously, turn 1 and 2, that being quite a technical section at the start of the lap. Also, turns 4, 5, and 6, another relatively technical part of the circuit. And then the really long sweepers toward the end of 11, 12, and 13. This track has got a bit everything, and that also plays a fact as well. That also plays quite a handy little part into, if you're strong at this sort of circuit, it tends to be that you're going to be strong pretty much everywhere. Qualifying is going to be, or Q1 is going to be underway in a couple of moments' time. Just before we go on though as well, we're turning around to actually who is leading this championship, and also as well, we've got a little bit of a story to tell, especially over the last few seasons. Obviously, this being a season number 4 of the Coach Dave Time Attack series. In terms of the previous 3 seasons, it's actually been between Dara McCormack and Luke Whitehead, with Dara actually taking the very, very first championship win in season 1. Then Luke snatched it back in season 2. And then going into season 3, Dara is now leading well. So it's 2-1 between Dara and Luke. Now, this is a perfect opportunity to make it even Stevens if Luke can manage to get that second championship that he has been looking for. But then also as well, remember, we've got some quite good other drivers as well to look out for. We are going to quickly just have a look, if we can, for week number 3, and here we go here. So we do have, there was Luke Whitehead at the top, you can see that. That's his Voltec Fiala as well, and Max Voigta. Those were your top 3 for week number 3. And again, you can see how close it is at the top. A pretty substantial difference in terms of times from the top 3 up to P4 as well. But you can see again just sort of where people are in terms of where they're, you can see sort of people in terms of the positionings and also the cars as well. We've got the Honda that's up there, speaking with James as well. And James, actually turning your attention to yourself as well for a few moments. We talked about the cars before we got on the broadcast. Now, we spoke that the Honda's very, very fast. The Porsche is very, very fast. And I can see as well, Lucas Schubert was in the Mercedes as well. So that seems to be a car possibly as well. Talk us through the cars that you feel are going to be one to watch out for today. Yeah,
I mean, there's also been quite a substantial couple of hot fixes recently, which has adjusted the BOP with a few cars. But historically, the Porsche's always run well at Misano, which is why you can see a lot of drivers have picked it for the finale tonight. The Honda, with its recent buff that it received, is obviously now pretty strong and popular, which is piqued my interest because Luke has decided to pick it instead of driving with the Porsche, which is what he normally would be in most kind of major championships these days. And that offers a bit of a segue as well to compare with Dara, who opted for the Porsche instead. So you've got 2 very different drivers going head to head for even Stevens in 2 very different cars. Mercedes yeah, you'd need a good driver in that to kind of really challenge the top, I think, tonight, which is why you see a lot of the really, really fast guys have gone for the Porsche or the Honda. Then you've got people like Amir Hosseini who's gone for the Ferrari, which is, a very interesting left field pick. He's my one to watch this evening if he gets through to the Super Bowl, because he's gone a complete different way to everyone else.
This is the interesting thing, isn't it? I am noticing as well that there's only one 720S in the entire lineup that I've pretty sure that I can see, which is a bit of a shame. That's the car that I tend to drive. It's the car that I enjoy driving. But yeah, you've got to go with it. Speaking of which, there is the McLaren 720S, a very stealthily livery that is currently driven. That's the Race Anywhere Sim Sport car by Grantas Caracas. Apologies for these name pronunciations in advance. There is Max Voigtner for Triton Racing in one of the very many Porsches we see riding now on board. Going through turn one, you can use quite a lot of the curb here. So one thing that I've always found when it comes to Misano is you can see how much curb is being used. You can pretty much take as many liberties as you want. Now, with ACC, it can be a little bit sketchy over some curbs, but Misano, as we can clearly see, just for the first 3 or 4 corners, Misano is not a track that you really have to worry about. Doesn't mean you can't be too careful. There's the sausage curbs on the exit of turn 6. You do have to be a little bit careful about. Got a bit of a run now down through 7 into turn 8. Again, using all of the curb on the outside, cutting it a little bit wide of the apex there. That would have cost him a bit of time. You can see just washes out a little bit wide. That was because missed the apex ever so slightly. Interesting line here going through 9 and 10. You have to go quite wide. You miss the apex completely of turn 9. And you have to cut back in through turn 10 to get yourself the best exit going down into turn 11. Nice camera split screen shot, as we are used to with SimGrid. Yeah, so as we see Max going through down into 11. Now, this is very, very fast. Flat out through turn 12. And then as you go into turn 13, you want to start getting on the brakes down into 14. Very, very interesting. A little bit... Well, I thought that was going to be a little bit too wide. It manages to cut it back, though, quite nicely. There's probably another couple of hundredths loss there, though. And then down into Misano corner, turn number 16 for first time here. Times are going to start coming in. That's very, very wide. You don't want to do that. See what I'm talking about, curbs? You can't be too careful. Some curbs you do have to be a little bit careful on, and the exit of turn number 16 is one of them. Harry Phillips of the Wild Things Racing AOR, number 79, Porsche 911. Absolutely fantastic car. It's one of my favourite cars, actually, in any racing event. I always have to root for the Porsche. Luckily, I've got quite a few to root for. Yeah, it's a fantastic car. It's such a unique car as well, and has been for, it's been racing for a long, long time. Speaking of another car that's certainly unique in terms of styling, is the BMW M4 GT3. This is the BMW G2 esports car. Robbie Stapleford, the number 81, currently driving the M4. Again, I have to admit, I don't know about yourself, James, but the M4's grown on me a little bit in terms of looks, and I never thought I'd be able to say that, actually, personally, but it's sort of grown on me ever so slightly.
I think it's still got a face that only a mother could love, to be honest.
Even that's a struggle.
There's still a struggle for me, I'm afraid, Dan. But yeah, you touched on it earlier, but this track is all about knowing to exploit the track limits. The quickest lap around here is basically just maximising everything on the runoffs you can and the sausage curbs. If you can take as much of the anti-cut as possible, you'll just shorten the distance and gain the time. And that is a big trouble spot there, as we see Luke on the exit there of the sweeper at the end of the back straight. It's so easy to run wide there and invalidate your lap. So people always have to watch out for that. And obviously we saw Max Voigtner on the exit of the final corner also taking a bit too much of that exit sausage curb, and if you catch it wrong, the splitter hitbox in ACC just goes nuts, and obviously kind of threw him into the air, and that was lap gone. So drivers, even towards the very end of the lap, have to make sure they keep their concentration and don't run too wide there at the exit.
Very, very true indeed. Taking a look at your top 3, though, we do have currently, that's leading Q1 at the moment, is Dinko van der Velde in the Honda. Do you know what we have? We have 3 different cars in the top 3. We've got van der Velde currently leading the way, and only half a tenth behind is Fiala, the number 42 in the Porsche. And then we have Caracas in the number 19 McLaren. So it's good to see the McLaren getting some pace up the front of the field, and then it's just the sea of Hondas and Porsches a bit further down. Whitehead in well, he was in P4 actually. Robbie Stapleford now goes up, number 81, up into P3. Again, it's very, very close. We've seen this time and time again. I haven't commentated on SimGrid for a while. It's good to be back. But I have certainly have missed how close the races can be here and how close times can be. And this is obviously no exception. Even though there's no racing actually happening between cars on circuit, it's only on the timing tower. There's still lots of excitement to be had here. Voltec, Fiala, GTWR Esports tucking it in for turn number 14. That looked relatively, very, very clean actually through there. He's only got half a tenth, and then he's running, he's comfortably within the cutoff. Bear in mind, the cutoff is 15. The top 15 go through. So that, I believe, looking at the current cutoff is the number 22. That will be Regan Mitchell in the Honda. He is on the cutoff at the moment. Whitehead now goes into pole position, provisional pole position for Q. I say pole position, it's qualifying, but he's provisionally leading in the timing tower. Here we are. We do have Yanis Jadakis as well, TF Racing, one of the highest placed Audis currently on the timing tower. He's just on the cusp, P12 currently at the moment. He's only got to lose a couple of tens, and that will be him very, very close to that top 15 cutoff. Does he improve? He does improve very much so. That's put him in a much safer position. He now goes up into P7, just under 4 tenths away.
There is a big name I'm missing here, Daniel. Like, where's Darren McCormack?
Yes.
Has he not been able to make it tonight? You know, this is massive. You know, this is for Luke, having one of the big contenders not there tonight. He was on the entry list, so for whatever reason he hasn't joined the server tonight. So this is massive for Luke in his quest to even things up to all really here. I am surprised.
That's actually an interesting point as well. I've seen a bit of chatter, obviously, in our commentary chat as well about that. I thought he'd maybe dropped in and he was running some laps, but no, very, very true indeed. He doesn't actually seem to be in this session. He might make a late entry, but if he's going to do it, he's got to do it soon because he's only got 6 minutes and 43 seconds left. Bear in mind, you've got to do an at lap and then the flyer. And when you've got this sort of stiff competition, it's very, very hard. Regan Mitchell, the Rocket Cinesport car, now currently P18. He's got to find, well, I mean, to be fair, it's about a couple of tenths. Ideally, you want to find 3.5 tenths to be safely in. So he goes through down 14 into 15 again. Cuts the apex very, very nicely. Runs out, uses all of the track available. Is he going to get the commitment on the exit? Just runs a little bit wide. Yep, manages to get through. That was somewhat going very, very sideways there. Couldn't quite see who that was. Does Mitchell improve? He does. He goes up into P14. 6 minutes to go. It's very, very close. It's still something I would be cautious. I would be concerned. I would still want to get another bit of, at least another tenth in the bag there. So I don't think Regan Mitchell will be running. He'll still have to run some laps, I would imagine. Skyver, excuse me, Bricks racing number 52. The Ferrari, actually, interesting. Nice to see the Ferrari getting there as well. P24, currently a couple of seconds down for Skylar Loverink. And through down into 13. And then that's not turn... Oh, it is turn 13. I'm sorry. My track map was going... I was completely lost as to where I was then. But no, that was turn 13 going into 14. Now, yeah, so we were talking about this, weren't we, James? The Ferrari, I've always think in one of those cars, generally tends to be whatever sim the Ferrari's in, it tends to be one of the cars that's just always sort of there or thereabouts in terms of drivability. It tends to be a relatively easy, I wouldn't say easy car to drive, but it just tends to be a balanced car to drive in general. Might not necessarily be the fastest, but it's always just there or thereabouts as just a good car to drive.
Absolutely, and Skylar looks like he's flying the flag for Ferrari on his own tonight because another big omission is Amir. You know, he's also not seemingly in the server, who also picked the Ferrari. So Skylar's got to basically fly the flag for Ferrari on their own tonight. But you're right. You know, Mazzano is a track that really does place to the strengths of the mid-engine cars a lot. It's a very traction-limited circuit, and because there's a lot of switchbacks and change of direction. You know, it rewards a car that's got, you know, quite a nimble front end, and a lot of the mid-engine cars in ACC, you know, do benefit from that. So, yeah, it is a competitive car at Mazzano. Obviously, not the most popular pick tonight, based on the domination of the entry list with Honda and Ferrari, with Honda and Porsche, but. it's still capable of extremely good times, and it generally does find its way to the front in most sims, as you say, that it appears in. So, but yeah, Skyler's got a bit of work to do there. He's a good second off where he needs to be to get the cut-off point. So if we want to see a Ferrari in Q2, he's got to really nail this last run.
Absolutely, yes, very, very true. Just looking at the, we do have some additional data with us, so I'm able to see a couple of live timings, and we've got, I believe that is Luke Whitehead that's just gone into, he's just taken a bit more time off of his current lap time. He is now at a 1:32.322 was his last time. That is the fastest of the session by just under 2/10. A couple of people that are paying a little bit more time. One of them is Van der Velde. He has, currently at the moment, he's 2/10 up on his lap time. 2/10, that's quite a substantial amount. If he stays that 2/10, is going to be him in pole. That's going to be him leading for Q1, and that is Fiala that's just gone in up into second place, the 42 Porsche. Van der Velde's getting thrown down the field, isn't he? Burnt's just gone in. The number 424, Leon Burnt, Honda, he's just gone up into third position. It's getting even closer at the top, with now the top 5 separated by just over 0.2 of a second, with 2 minutes 37 seconds left to go.
Still a chasm, Dan. Still 2/10 is a massive chasm in this.
Lots of changes. Lots of changes there.
I'm not going to be impressed until I see the top 5 within a few hundredths. To be fair, it's based on previous form in this series.
But no, that's a possibility.
Yeah, very, very possible. But the top guys will just be looking to get their run in. They won't be necessarily too bothered about getting P1 in this session. As long as they're in that cut-off period, that they're happy. So obviously Luke, he's been in the pits now for a few minutes, so he's pretty happy that he's not going to be P15 with a 32.3, and I'd probably agree with him there. And then it's just the top 10 will kind of shuffle their way through. But what we really need to see is that gap from P13 down to P17 is very, very close. You're looking at, a tenth and a half, 2 tenths. So that 13 to 17, that big cluster of Ferrari, of Porsches and Regan Mitchell there in the Honda, they'll all be fighting on this last run to really get that run in, because 1.5 tenths, that could mean 4 positions and whether you actually get in the cutoff or not.
Very true indeed. Well, people are coming on to their final laps now, and that will be, let's see, got another minute and 10. I believe people will be able to finish the lap. If they cross the line, they will be able to finish their lap. So it's still all to play for. People have got possibly 2 more laps to go. Now, what this does mean is pretty much if you're on your final run now, you don't have an option to come back to the pits. Once you're out on track now, that is it, because you won't be able to do another out lap. There's a little bit of sideways there for Nicholas Hurt. He's in P16. He was a 10.5 up, so that would have put him up into P13, P12 possibly. So coming on to his final lap, he has put a little bit of heat into the tyres though after that little bit of a slide going through the last corner. So you've got to be a little bit careful now, especially going through turns 1 and 2. That looked okay though in terms of his current pace on the Delta. He is about 2 tenths down at the moment, so nothing for the moment, I believe. Regan Mitchell has gone to the pit, so he has decided that is his qualifying all done and dusted. Annam is a couple of seconds up. That is, I believe we have just going through, I'm just looking at my the sheet now. That is the number 9 of that's Tarek Adam. He was a couple of tenths up. So qualifying is now finished. This is Q1 all done and dusted. There is Tarek Adam there, the number 9. Is he going to maintain that 2 tenths up? If he does, that will put him P3. And he goes up. He actually goes up into P4. So he dropped a tiny bit of time.
Still a strong lap, Dan, for sure. It was
very strong lap.
That was good. And I mean, Nicholas Hurt, he was a bit scruffy in turn 2 and 3, which maybe constituted to him having that loss of time on his Delta. It's a little bit wide, and the rear end was a little waggly there in turn 2 and 3, which is kind of not what you want, because you want a really good drive out of turn 2, because that first sector kind of really makes you lap. So yeah, it's tough to then bring back those 2 tenths towards the end of the lap in sector 3. So and I'll be very surprised if he manages to usurp Regan Mitchell there, who I think may just get in with the skin of his teeth. Yeah, Nicholas there just finishing 200ths off. I mean, that's so close, but I think Regan might just get through here on the skin of his teeth.
He might very well do, indeed. We do have one more driver currently on the go. I believe it was Manisha. And actually, sorry, it was initially going to be Taz, but as you say, yes. Regan Mitchell does get through. That was the cut-off there. So Q1 is done. We've got just a very, very brief break. And I believe we're going to have a quick conversation with Luke Whitehead, who's just be dropping in for an interview in a few moments for us. That will be quite nice to see how he just his thoughts on it as well. The other thing I've noticed is because, again, obviously you've got more track time is better. Even if you are comfortably within, and you saw this as well, people were comfortably in the top 15 and they were still running laps. It makes perfect sense because what they want to do is just make sure that they can obviously get as much track time as possible. You may as well utilize it. Do that last bit of experimentation. Do that last little bit of maybe tweaking in the set. There's lots of things you can do. So, track time is track time at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's just about getting your eye in, really. I mean, if the sessions come thick and fast, as we said, Dan, and they're quite short. So that first quali session, when there's maximum amount of people in the server as well, it's a full grid. You're struggling for space. So the first couple of runs, you might not get her optimal anyway in terms of braking points and traffic and bits and bobs. So yeah, that first session, you just want to keep lapping, just keep pumping in the runs. And getting your eye in, and then obviously come Q2 and Q3, you've got your muscle memory and your reference points sorted, and it's just about nailing the lap to ensure you're obviously there for the final Super Pole session.
Well, this is, as you say, it's something that if it doesn't matter how fast you are, if there's one wrong move on the lap that you need, that is it. Which is actually, when we're talking about just the really, really exciting thing about this time attack format, the fact it being so close, it just makes things just that much exciting. We're still waiting. Well, hopefully we'll get Luke with us in a few moments' time. But talking about what's going to happen now, obviously through the remaining qualifying sessions. So this Q2 session will see only the top 10 go through. There is obviously a lesser drop-off in terms of we're not going to see as many people that will be removed. Instead of being the full grid we had around 15 or so drivers that won't be competing, it's now only going to be the last 5 that don't go through. We are going to see it's even more imperative to get that final lap. Right, we do have very, very quickly Luke Whitehead. Luke, just a very, very quick brief moment with you. How did you find Q1 there? Does the car feel okay? Everything feels sort of okay for the remainder of this session? I think, Luke, are you there? Are you with us?
There we go. That should work.
There we are. Yes, Luke, we can hear you now.
I forgot because I was streaming. I'd pushed the talk on. Sorry, that's my bad. But I got my setup sorted pretty much just before Q1 started and gained quite a lot of pace. So I'm very happy with that. Still not really sure if I have the pace to win, but I have the pace to be there or thereabouts. So fingers crossed I can put it together in the final quali. Obviously, Super Pole is a lot more difficult. But first I've got to get there.
Absolutely, yes, indeed. And one thing we have noticed is Darren McCormack isn't actually in this session, so I imagine that relieves some pressure off of your shoulders.
I wouldn't say it does, to be honest, because we've still got some really quick guys in here. Obviously, Tariq Adam, Voiter, Fiala, Van der Velde, they're all super quick guys, and obviously you've got other guys in there as well. So I wouldn't say it's a done deal by any stretch. So I'm excited for the challenge, and just what will be will be. What will be, will be.
Oh, that's a very, very good way to put it. Luke, I won't keep any longer. I know you're going to get ready for Q2, but thank you very much for jumping in, and good luck for the rest of the session.
All right, thank you very much, guys. Enjoy.
Take care. So, a minute left to go, James, and then we'll be up for Q2. Very exciting Q2, I am sure. So, in terms of now, let's talking about what we've seen in terms of times. Now, is there going to be anything that the drivers are going to do differently, would you say, compared to Q2 or compared to Q1? Sorry, the fact that they've got less cars on circuit, which is obviously something to take into consideration. But are they going to do anything differently now for the remainder of this event?
I wouldn't say so. I mean, there'll be a bit more look, the pressure's up a bit more now. I mean, it's the cut-off time will be a lot more competitive now. It's not going to be 6-7 tenths off of P1. It might be 4 tenths off of P1. So anyone around that kind of cut-off area from Q1 is going to have to really nail their lap if they want to hope of getting into that Q2 session, or Q3 session. So it's going to be very very tough on them just to try and nail the lap. But they have got less traffic to deal with, and that does play a big part, because I mean, I've been frustrated before in quali sessions when people, are stacked up, waiting and queuing and constantly, backing up, and it does distract you. And if you're on a hot lap and people are constantly coming out the pits on warm-up laps as well, it does distract you a bit. So it means that the existing drivers now that are left, they can just focus more on nailing the actual lap itself. And we've got only 9 minutes here, so you're going to probably only want to run 2-3 lap runs anyway by the time you've done your out lap and you've got a time on the board. So yeah, it's just about optimization now, Dan. Just making sure you hit your apexes, and then essentially it'll come down to who's got the speed. Based on the cut-off time from Q1, we're probably going to look at going to need to be within 3 to 4 tenths of P1, I think, to get through. So yeah, it's going to be a lot more competitive now.
It certainly is, but at the same time, we thought obviously that's going to be the cut-off again. If people can't pull the lap time when they need to, then that gap could be bigger. It could be even smaller. Actually, we don't know. In typical SimGrid fashion, it might be the top 15 separated by a tenth. It's not certainly without the realms of possibility. Everyone now checking up, make sure they get some clean air. Dirty Air's a little bit of a problem. It's not too much within ACC, and actually that's probably something to touch on, James, with yourself as well. In terms of dirty air, obviously that is something to take into consideration. Would you say that there's a general sort of cut-off point in ACC that you can leave a gap comfortably?
I mean, different cars suffer differently as in ACC, and obviously it does seem to change track to track. Obviously, Mazzano, I think if you're past half a second behind the person in front, you'll be fine. A lot of the corners are pretty slow speed, and yeah, it'll just be more distraction than anything. If you're that close to someone in front, it might just prove a bit of a distraction for you, especially if they miss their braking point or if they scuff their lap up.
Yeah, very true.
It can also impact you then further behind. So as long as you've got like a second or so to the car in front, I mean, these are all top drivers. They're all super quick, so it's not like you're going to catch someone, half second, 6 tenths in a single lap. It should be fine. But yeah, that kind of gap between Tarek and I think it's Harry Phillips ahead, that's probably where you want to be. That's a pretty good lap gap to have.
Indeed, you've got there's less people now. You've got enough track. It's a relatively long track here, so you should be able to give yourself enough gap. We just saw as well on the right hand side of your screen was Robbie Stapleford, but now we're focusing back on Tarek Adam. First lap times coming on the board. What are they going to be? So what does Tarek Adam do? He sets the bar currently.
It's invalid though. They're all invalid. Look, yeah, this is the thing. So
I did see Robbie Stapleford's lap was invalid. It looked like he got on the exit at turns. Well, that was definitely being invalid now. If it wasn't before. But the exit at turn 6, tricky one there because you got that really, really aggressive bump on the exit, the sausage curves on the exit. So this lap isn't going to count for most people. What that does mean is Luke Whitehead 32.522 is currently the leading time, with Whitehead currently setting that. Obviously, that will most certainly become quicker. Luca Schubert, the Prime E-Racing 911, number 21, as he goes through down 5 into 6. Cuts all to the curb on the inside, just about cuts the correct amount of curb on turn 6. That was very, very nice, very, very clean. Again, you see that using all of the track and a little bit more. Going into turn number 8. I am using corner numbers here as opposed to corner names, because the pronunciation of those corner names is something that nobody wants to hear.
I want to hear it, Dan.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I won't be invited back again. So it's going through turn 10. A very, very tricky one. We talked about it as well. Turn 9, turn 10. Now, turn 9 you pretty much ignore, don't you? You have to completely ignore turn 9. Turn 10 is your main important one. It's about 3/4 of the way around the corner is the apex, because you want to give yourself the best run. Notice as well, miss turn 11 completely as well. The apex isn't really needed. it's a very, very interesting way it sounds counterintuitive. People that don't necessarily have driven this track as well, it sounds counterintuitive, but by not hitting those apexes, you actually makes things easier for the corners after it, which is a little bit strange.
You can just straight line the entry. You know, the last thing you want to be doing is just putting yaw into the car or big load when you want to brake heavily. So if you just basically ignore those first two apexes and focus just on the final one, which is also the most important one, it sets you up for the hairpin. So if you get that wrong, you know, that's the lap gone. So yeah, you just got to ignore them. They don't exist. It's basically a kink straight. That's all you got to think of it as.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then you just you hug the left-hand side, keep the car as straight as possible because you are going to brake hard and generally go down, you know, one gear at least, generally two from you know fifth to third, and set yourself up for that hairpin, which obviously directly follows it. So. But what you could see is from that first run how important a valid lap is, because basically 3/4 of the field didn't post a valid lap on their first run there, or that first lap, which means on the second time lap of your first run, you have got to nail it, because then you've only got one run after that. So time's obviously coming in a bit more now, and Luke after his first run obviously got that valid lap in and managed to stay P2. But people like Tarek and Max Voigtner and Robbie Stableford that, you know, they validated that first lap. They've now got pressure on to nail the second time lap, because they want to come back into the pits for that second run before the end of the session.
Very true. So the people that haven't set a lap time at the moment, you've got Adam, Hemming, Volkner, that is Stubenrach as well, and Stableford. So a few drivers, 4 drivers in fact, that have yet to post, 5 drivers if I can count, that haven't posted a lap time as of yet. Tinko van der Velde, number 166, the Williams Esports Chill Blast car. He is currently P8. He's dropping down the order a little bit, but he's 6/10 off. Assume that will come down as well. Looking at his current time on circuit, he is 3/10 up on that, so that will bring up into a nice, comfortable 4th position. I say comfortable, you know, Robbie Stapleford has actually just gone up into P4, so that's the sort of lap times that we expect from him. That means as well, we've got Regan Mitchell, the Rocket Cinesport car. He's in P6, number 22, so he's still safe for the moment. Tinker van der Velde, as he comes down into the final complex of turn number 14, goes through 15 now. He still is, that is 3/10 up still. He's got one more corner to go. Can he make it stick? We've also got Hemming, Adam, and Stubenrach. They're on pretty good laps as well. It's going to be around 3/10 of a second on his current time. And as Van der Velde goes through, I believe that was actually an invalid lap time once again. So Van der Velde
on the exit there,
close,
I think,
isn't it? It's getting close.
It is, yeah. You know, that I think it was on the last corner there. Whereas if you do go over that anti-cut curb on the exit, you do get an invalidation. But that was maybe it was done before the lap, before the end of that lap, but or before we cut to the car. But based on the footage where we were following the car, it looked like that's where the invalidation was done. So yeah, it was. It's put the pressure on now, because now we're down to 1 minute and 46 already, Dan. You know, the session's going quick, and he's now only 100th off the cutoff. So he really does need to get that lap in, because that would have banked him probably an easy run into Q3 there. You know, that would have guaranteed his spot almost definitely, to be, you know, just 3/10 off of Fiala's P1 time. So yeah, it will come down to this now, and he's got to hope that the likes of Harry Phillips and Chordakis and Tarek Adam, who still hasn't actually posted a valid time yet. You know, if Tarek just comes up and pops a lap in at the very end of the session, that's you know, full on pressure.
It very much is. What do you think? If Adam pops in a lap, if Tarek Adam, and then Stubenrach as well, that's going to be Van der Velde down into P11, and that will be him done and dusted. So, you know, even just a 10th, like a 10th would be something. It won't give him any positions, but it will give him something.
There we go.
There's Tinker van der Velde. That's the sort of lap time we expect. Goes up a couple of tenths slower than Fiala. Fiala leading the way. He is still currently on a lap. He'll be finishing up his lap. Tarek Adam, here we go, the KCMG number 911. Comes through turn number 15. So he will have one more lap after this. Depending on where he goes, he might not even bother to run the last lap. We'll have to see.
Depends if he's got the fuel as well, Dan. He might have only fueled for this lap. So yeah, he gets up to P5. So that was critical. That was really critical, that lap.
Indeed, we've just gone through. So last lap's happening now. Regan Mitchell has been pushed down now. He's in the cutoff. He's on that final. He's the driver at risk. Car number 10. So if Stephen Rapp can just pop a lap in that's faster, only by a couple of hundredths of a second, doesn't matter. I've also seen as well, have a look at that, the exact same times. Qualifying's over now. The exact same times by Regan Mitchell and Leon Bird. That's interesting. What can Chodakis do? Can he improve? No, he does not. So Chodakis, he doesn't improve. He's 6 tenths down. He won't be participating in Q3. A couple of drivers still left to go. Stephen Rout just to come across the line. Does he put a lap in? No, he doesn't. So Stephen Rout he won't be making his way through either. A couple more drivers left to go that will be finishing behind. You've got Mead. What can Mead do? Is he going to be able to improve his time as he comes across the line? He does, but he doesn't prove it enough. He stays in P13. Now, I believe there's one more person to... Actually, no, that's it. No, that's it. Apologies. So, Regan Mitchell in the cutoff once again. He will be leading the... he is the last driver within that cutoff. So he makes his way through to Q3. Again, very, very close. Very, very exciting indeed. It's my first time attack that I've been commentating on. And you know what? I've been very much enjoying it. It's been a fantastic... It's such a different format because there's no racing actually anyone on circuit. It's all in the timing tower, but it's still very much, very, very exciting.
Absolutely, it comes quick and fast here. So, if I was Regan Mitchell, I'd definitely be buying a lottery ticket tonight because in both sessions he's literally got in with the skin of his teeth. So, he's feeling pretty lucky today.
Indeed, he is. Now, I've just been told as well, will be joining us in a couple of moments. In fact, here he is, Miles Hemming. Miles, good to have you with us. Good performance there in terms of Q2. What was that all like for you? How did it all go in terms of Q2 for you?
Actually not that well because on my first hot lap I had a spin, so that kind of messed up my strategy because I wanted to go for 2 sets of flying laps, but I couldn't do that. So yeah, it didn't really go to plan, but still quite happy with my time because I had limited practice, of course. So yeah.
In terms of obviously, yeah, talking about it, the amount of pressure is obviously mounting up, and the pressures again. How do you deal with this sort of pressure in this just time attack format? I know again with an endurance, with your strategy being going through and changing quite drastically and pretty quickly. How do you cope with that? How do you change that? Just preparation basically, because of course you plan for these kinds of things to happen because sometimes things just go wrong. So yeah, it was kind of planned, but it was a plan B. So that's just how I deal with it. Gotcha. Well, I mean, again, it's something that adaptability, obviously, certainly one of the names of the game here. Is time attack something you've done before? Is that something you've enjoyed? Is this a format that you've enjoyed? Is that something you're because again, obviously, this really hasn't been done at least that much to this sort of level with any, in any form of sim race that we've seen. Is this something that you'd like to be able to continue with?
Yeah, definitely, because I obviously like hot lapping, and this is my first time in the Coach Dave Academy time attack, of course. But I really like this format. I like qualifying, and it's high pressure, and I like that.
Indeed stuff. Well, fantastic. Thank you very much for coming with us again. I'm lucky for not getting through to Q3, but well done again on a strong performance through Q1. It's just sharing about the strategy, but again, very, very well done. And we look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Cheers, Miles. So, there we go. Miles Hemming, just having a quick chat with us there. It's amazing, isn't it, James? How a strategy, if it doesn't go your way, even just that one tiny little bit, that one off track, that one cut warning that you get, and it really can affect the remainder of your entire strategy for that particular qualifying session, as we have just heard there from Miles.
Yeah, I mean, if you have one spin, the tyre set's done. There's no point driving any more laps on it because they're overpressured, they're overheating. They're just not going to have the time. So, that as Miles said, it kind of disrupted his rhythm there. He couldn't do his full run on the first run. Kind of just put him out of sync, and it just adds to the pressure. And and that's the thing. It comes down to the very fine margins. As we saw with Regan Mitchell, setting the identical lap time to the P11, is literally down to who set that lap time first. So it might even be your first run that determines whether you get through or not, based on getting the lap time you do. So, yeah, it is important, especially when the gaps are so small between positions, and hundredths matter. So yeah, it kind of did put him on the back foot from the start there. And but again, look, first time competing in time attack, as Miles said, it's not bad for a debut performance, is it?
Certainly not, no, considering the performance and the strong people that we do have in. Just to confirm, your drivers that were out for Q2, we had Leon Burnt, we also had Yanis Chidakis, the P13, the number 29 was James Mead, we had Miles Hemming, and then P15, the final spot in that session was number 88 of Artem Manisha. So that was your confirmed drivers who were knocked out of Q2. And now we're underway for Q3. Only 8 minutes this time, which is pretty much, when you factor in the pit time, when you also factor in the fact of actually just getting out of the pits, and then you've got 2 runs pretty much, realistically. Some people might do 2 runs. I can't see anyone doing just 1 run. I can't imagine that being a thing. I would imagine it's just 2 runs. And that's
100%. I mean, you'd have to be extremely confident if you wanted to just nail it on 1 run and then just park it like Sebastian Vettel did at Singapore back in 2011 or whatever it was. I mean, that'd be a bit of a bold statement to make to the rest of the grid, I think, if you were to do that in this session. But everyone will just kind of fight for their little bit of space now, get a first kind of 2-lap run in, and then they'll all try and shuffle out the pits in time for I might even do 1 run if they want to really guarantee, as in 1 flying lap on this run, if they want to guarantee themselves space and time to do that full second run. Generally it takes a lap for the tyres to come up at Mazzano. Second and third flyers are generally where they come on song. So yeah, that first lap people will just be looking to get a banker lap in, not make any mistakes. And then that second lap is the key lap, really, especially if people are doing that on that first run, because that will either alleviate or build pressure towards the end of the session.
Indeed, very, very much so. Now, obviously, into Q3, we're on the first laps anyway, so we talked about how important that these first laps are. I wonder, as you said, how many people are actually only going to do the 1 lap. There's Robbie Stibford going a little bit wide there. So the people that we have in, obviously, only the top 5 now are going to go through into the Super Bowl format, and we'll talk a little bit more about the Super Bowl when that comes around. You can see on circuit now, everyone's still relatively close together. I didn't think, I thought people would be more spread out than they are actually, but that everyone seems to be occupying the same amount of circuit. So if there's a small mistake from one of them, that could really upset and that could be put you off. I know that's happened to me a couple of times. So I certainly always try to make sure that I can give myself a bit of a gap. But these guys, they're professionals. Luke Whitehead, though, coming down into 11 and then going through 12, 13. Hard braking zone down into 14. Tuck the front in. I'm noticing, a bit more curb use. Using the curb to hook the car around. It's something that you can do, and it does help, especially in the slower speed corners here. Using as much of the circuit as possible. And then down into the final corner. Doesn't want to run too wide. Gets a banker in. That was close, but I think he manages to get on board with that. 32.447 is the time we currently have seen.
It was invalidated.
And it was invalidated. I didn't look like it was the last game. Might very well have been. Could have been earlier in the lap. But either way, it's been invalidated. Not good at all there for White. That means he will only have 1 more chance. And in fact, no, I think he is doing 1 more lap on this set of tires.
100%.
Which everyone is actually, to be fair, looking at.
Yeah, I think everyone wants to get that at least 1 competitive lap time on the board, so they know exactly what their delta is. Because it is easy to get lost in terms of lap time. At least if you've got a solid delta for your second run, you know where you can improve and where you're losing time. So for reference points around the lap, if you're up or down, it's a good place to be, to have that solid delta from a good first lap or from that first run. But I mean, Tinko's got the right idea there. He's got the whole of Mazzano to himself, look, in the first sector. He's gone the complete opposite direction to everyone else. He just wants to have that free track space and not anyone around him, look, so he can get his run in and hopefully get a valid lap in. But as we see, his first lap there, 32.6, was also invalid. So, yeah, a lot of people are struggling here, aren't they, to get valid laps in. And this is the risk-reward thing, I guess, at the end of the day, because do do you sacrifice a tenth and a half, maybe in a corner, to guarantee yourself a valid lap, but then risk it being a bit slow? Or do you go, balls to the wall and try and get everything out of a lap and then risk the invalidation? So, as we can see, 5 of those drivers have tried to do that from that first lap and invalidated. But second lap now, people I think are starting to get the memo and maybe are just getting a good banker in for their second run.
Absolutely, very true indeed. Regan Mitchell, one of the we've got Mitchell, Van der Velde, and Stapleford. The 3 drivers haven't set a lap time yet. Mitchell is just going through down into that was on the exit of turn 10. A little bit wide on the exit, a little bit wide on the apex, of turn 10. That would have cost him a little bit of time, but again, just needs that banker in. Now he
picks up a bit of oversteer.
Yeah, he will have an opportunity though to cross the line. He'll need to cross the line and then jump to the pits and then jump straight back out again. Bottom right hand corner of your screen is Robbie Stapleford. He comes through. That's very, very wide on the exit of turn 8. But he manages to, I think, keep it in check though. I don't think he'd be driving otherwise. Go through 9 and 10. Again, just brings it around nicely. Uses the curb again to hook the inside and to bring the car round. A little bit of oversteer mid-corner there for Regan Mitchell, but this looks like it's going to be a valid lap unless we missed something. And he does go, but he manages to put it in P9. So he has got a banker in. He needs to stop now, pretty much, and go. He needs to stop, jump back in, and away he goes. And I think he's actually carrying on. So he might just be carrying on with what he's got currently.
Yeah, the pit lane is horrendously long at Mazzano.
It is, yes.
The transit time takes forever. It feels like an age. So, you have definitely missed the boat if you want to do that now. You need to go out with kind of around 2 minutes left, really. People have basically got to just deal with what they've got now, Dan, and just whatever lap time they can produce is what they're going to end up with.
Indeed, very, very true. Very, very close between 4th and 6th. Actually, it's pretty close between 3rd and 6th. We've only a 10th and a half of a second. That's the difference between 3rd and that's the difference between 3 places. Another 10th and a half, and you've got P7. Remember, the top 5 go through here. So Schuber is currently the person, and we've got Van der Velde decided that he doesn't even want to participate in that final lap. What's Harry Phillips going to do? He's currently P6. Is he going to improve? No, he does.
It was an outlap. It was an outlap down.
Sorry, yes, that's very true. Yes,
so he's lining himself up now for a final push to try and get that 5th spot, and it's 300ths, Dan. I mean, think how little you have to gain around the lap to get 300ths, but it is when you're at 99.9% of commitment. That's it's tough to find. So. These small margins are going to make or break people's laps there, and Harry has actually pulled over, so I imagine he's invalidated that lap and then just decided to park it without having to worry about going back to the pits. So Harry Phillips is now out, and we're now down to Regan, Robbie,
just, popped to the pits as well. So Regan, I just saw on the Delta, his lap time is invalidated as well, so he won't be participating any further. It's just going to be, can he make it? There's your end of qualifying. That was a bit too wide. I think that'll be done. Yep. Schubert comes into the pit. So it's up to what can Voigtner do? Can he?
Well, Stapleford gets in. Look at that. It sneaks in at the...
There we go. Yep. Pushes Schubert out. So that's pushes Schubert out. Voigtner is the last person. He's not up at the moment. He's a 10th and a half down. So he's going to have to magically find realistically, a 10th and a half of a second. He's now back up. He's back up on his sector time. Just drops under. He's got 2 corners left to go. This is going to be really close. If he can manage it, that'll be a very, very impressive run. He runs wide. Very, very close, though. Gave it a good go. That could have been really close. 10th and a half, and he would have been in.
You see that as soon as... the session ended there, because as soon as he went wide there, it was an invalidation. So that was run over, which is a bit of a shame. But yeah, Robbie Stapleford there at the skin of his teeth there at the end of the session managed to take that last place in P5, and he's through to the Super Bowl against all the odds. There's a big swath of Porsches there that were occupying that mid-pack space, and he's managed to jump in there.
Indeed, very much so. As you say, just the last minute puts in, so he manages to go into pole position. He manages to go through into the Super Pole. I said just by the skin of his teeth. Very, very close. That was a very, very tense few moments there. In a moment, we will be having a chat with Harry Phillips. So once we bring him in, we'll see how he is getting on. And speaking of which, we do have Harry Phillips with us now. Harry, talk us through Q3 from your side.
Oh yeah, good evening, guys. Bit of a struggle. I left a lot on the plate there. With the time we had, I think that's the best I could have done. But I think one more lap, and I could have got P3. I think in that Q3 there. Very, very difficult.
It's always the case, isn't it? When it comes to hindsight, is a very funny thing. When it comes to especially someone like this, someone like this, which is so important to get that absolute perfect lap. And I mean, it's hard enough getting a perfect lap anyway. Yeah, it is a shame. But like you said, half a tenth would have been the difference. Not that I'm trying to obviously just to remind you once again, but yeah, I think all in a really, really good performance, though, strong performance as well moving forward. How have you been finding this season as well in the Porsche? Is it something have you driven the Porsche quite a while beforehand? What's your story behind the Porsche?
The Porsche I've only started driving since January this year. Before that, I was a Bentley driver. Obviously, a very different type of machine. Yes. It's definitely my type of car, though. I think I'm fastest in the Porsche, no matter what the track. Even a bad track for the Porsche, I'll probably be fastest in the Porsche. Like Imola, even Bathurst, to be honest. But yeah, it's an incredible car. It's exceptional around this track. Maybe the strongest. The Honda's maybe a close second, if not a tie. But yeah, the Porsche is just fantastic to drive.
And the Porsche is a lovely car to drive, I think, anyway, regardless of the BOP. But it's as you say, Mazzano just really suits this particular car. Was there any other choice that you were thinking of with the start of this season, or was it just always going to be Porsche?
It was mostly going to be Porsche. The only other car I might have chosen was the Honda, because OP car, of course. Well, I have been driving it recently with Team Rocket as partnership with Wild Things Racing in SRO. So that's the only other car I might be used to driving. But I've got most hours in the Porsche now, so it was going to be a no-brainer choice.
The logical choice, yeah, no, absolutely. Well, again, commiserations, but at the same time, again, a really, really strong performance. Harry, thank you much for jumping in with us. Really, really well done. And we look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Brilliant. Thank you, guys. Bye now.
Cheers, Harry. Well, there we go. So, Jade, I mean, going from driving a cruise liner to driving like a fighter jet, that's a hell of a difference to go through, driving arguably one of the biggest cars on the planet, and then driving the Porsche. It's a very, very different driving experience compared to, I mean, I don't think you can get much further apart.
No, the Porsche is just rotation city in ATC. So, if it's something you can put up with and enjoy, then you're always going to be quick in it. And if it suits your driving style, it's great. Obviously, for a lot of people, it's a bit alien to them, and dealing with the extensive rotation you get in the car can be off-putting. But if you can take advantage of it, the time's there, and Harry, was only half a tenth off there in that session. So, as he said, he left maybe a bit of time on the table that he could have got out there and challenged for the Super Pole. But as he said, it's one of the fastest cars in the sim, and Mazzano especially probably the fastest if you can hook the lap up. So it makes sense why you'd want to pick it for tonight. And but I'm really looking forward to this last session now. There's a good selection of cars in there. It's not Porsche dominated, which is wonderful. As we've got 3 brands of car there in the top 5, and they all look pretty close on pace. I think if they nail their lap. With Super Pole, it's that invalidated lap will mean the difference between winning or coming last, potentially. So, track limits are going to be a big factor, I think.
Well, you've got to make sure that you get the time, and you need to push the car, but you can't push it too much. Just under a minute to go now, or in fact, probably about 30 seconds left to go, and then we will be underway for the Super Pole. Now, this format has changed ever so slightly from what we saw before. So, James, just talk us through what Super Pole is going to look like for these drivers here.
Yeah, so the top 5 basically take it in turns to do a single lap. So with the first runs, you'll go P5 to P1 in terms of their position that they finished in the previous session, and it'll be just down to who can get the first lap in, and then they'll all have an opportunity then to do a second flying lap to improve their first lap. So it's just a single lap that they have, and so yeah, it will be whatever lap time out of those 2 laps is the fastest will be taken. So it'll be a lot of pressure down.
Very much a lot of pressure indeed. Robbie Stapleford is the first person to jump out, where he's got 1 lap to get those tyres up to temperature, get the brakes up to temperature as well. Now you can see there you go, talking about that, you can almost hear me getting those brakes really up to temp. One thing that you obviously don't want to do though, and this is true for anything, regardless, it's real racing, sim racing, what you don't want to do is you want to put heat in the tyres without scrubbing them. You don't want to have much in the way of sliding the car, because that just pushes excess heat through the tyres. You don't get the correct grip. You're not heating the carcass then. All you're doing is you're just giving a lot of surface temp, and the car just doesn't accept it, doesn't like it. So you've got to heat the tyres in a very specific way. Yeah,
in fact, I'd actually advise Harry to not weave on the straight on his warm-up lap, because all that's doing is potentially getting the tyres grained. In ACC, the most effective way of heating the tyre up, which is essentially what you're trying to do with just dragging the brakes, is basically just to go straight and just drive around 90% of the lap with your foot planted on the brake pedal at the same time. So, hopefully you didn't go too aggressive on the weaving, otherwise you would have maybe potentially grained the tyres a little bit too much whilst they're still cold, but let's see what he can do on his lap.
Indeed, down into turn 1, nice and late on the brakes, carrying as much corner speed as he can. Look at all the curb he is using. We'll see a common theme of that going through. Drags the car ever so slightly to the left going into turn 3. Very quick, sharp change going into that turn 3 as well. Down into 4, turn 5, almost treat it as one corner, using all of the curb, bring it back over for turn number 6. On the throttle nice and early. This is about as much curb as you want to on the exit. Bit of breathing now through turn 7. And then down into turn 8, using again all of the circuit going on to the entry. Use the curb and use the rumble strip to tuck the car in. Very nice. Use all of the curb on the exit once again. Taking as much liberty as you can. Remember, ignore turn 9 completely. Pretend it's not even there. Down into turn 10. That's your focus. Use the curb again to hook the car on the inside. Nice and early on the throttle again. Making sure that you don't slip on that rear. You've got there is a certain amount of slip angle that you can get, but it's not that much within ACC. Shortest distance travelled is best through here. Nice and early through turn 11. Ignore turn 12 completely again on the apex and focus on turn 13. Nice and quick through there, down into 14 again. Really early on the turn. It looked to be a bit too early, almost from my side.
Yeah, he's very conservative with the track limits there in 13, which is good, I think, for your first lap. You just want to get a delta for your second lap, really. The lap's been clean. He's maximised the track limits in the first sector, and he's now obviously taken the shortest distance to the finish line. 32.9. I think the Porsches will be quicker than that, Dan, off the bat, and probably the Hondas. But if he's got a good delta there, and he maybe took it a bit easy in that first lap, there might be a lot of time for him to find. I mean, we've seen he can do a 32.5 in previous sessions. So, yeah, there is a bit of time there on that second run for him.
Absolutely. But, again, the banker is in there. So what is Tarek Adam going to be able to do? He's going to be coming across the line for his first flying lap. Gets a nice exit on the exit of turn 16. That's an important one. People forget that. You've got to get a good exit to make sure that you maximise the time down into turn 1. Again, using all of the curb possible. A little bit wider on the entry there going into turn 1, you saw, compared to what Robbie Stapleford was doing. Now, this would be characteristics of the car here. Notice again how there was Tarek was a bit further over to the left going in turn 2 as well. Nice and late on the brakes again. Less curb being used there. Might have cost him, it looked like he cost himself a little bit of time there. You just saw him overslow the car ever so slightly, and the only reason he did that was just to make sure he could get the car pitched into turn 4. There's a little bit of time left there to be had. Again, bit of breathing room down into turn 7. Again, using not as much curb as Robbie Stapleford did going through on the entry into turn 8. Uses as much of the exit curb though, possibly a little bit more. Once again, turn 9. As we go through down, bring the car through. Nice turn 10. You see, there's a little bit, it doesn't seem that, as much as the Porsche is fast, it doesn't seem as planted, doesn't seem as stable on the rear as the BM. The BM seems to be a nice, stable platform, which probably does make sense because of the nature of just the orientation of the car. Whereas with the Porsche, remember, you've got the weight all over the rear. Nice through turn 13. Good amount of track limits going down to your full screen. That's a bit, that looks to be a better line through there. Maybe still a bit wide of the apex. You could tuck it into the curb a little bit more, but that seemed to be a slightly better line through there. Maximize the speed a bit more through turn 14.
Yeah, turn 4 is definitely a bit of time on the table. You just went a little bit too deep there, didn't hook the curb enough. And the hairpin, I agreed, just a little bit more red tarmac he could have taken there in the hairpin. 32.6 though, which is a great initial run, to be honest, Dan. I think that's a very competitive first lap. And he'll have a good then delta time going for his second lap. And those couple of little corners where he made those small micro mistakes, just ran a little bit too deep or didn't just hook the car enough. He can then just improve his delta on those sections and ensure he doesn't actually lose time elsewhere. And he'll be able to see that now from his delta because he'll have a valid lap. So it's very important for sure.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? As much as normally I don't tend to, well, actually, no, I do. Tell a lie. I don't know why I was going to say that. I always chase my delta. That's literally what I always like having a delta there, even if it's just in a race like the last lap, just so I have an understanding of where my time is and where my time is in terms of, just the stable lap. I can see what's happening after every lap as the tires start to deteriorate. Because the problem is in a even just, any race, to be fair, if you go into the corner a little bit, if you go lap after lap and you're still trying to hit your best lap times, you're going to overdrive the car because your tires are up to temp and your tires just don't have the life that they did at the start and that sort of thing. But no, delta is something that it's widely underused, I feel, and people can really utilize it a lot more. So as you said there, James, important that you get a lap on the board, a clean lap, so you have something to compare off of.
Absolutely, and all the best drivers were using it on their second run to see. They'll know whether they've made the small mistake, so they'll aim to fix that, and then the rest of the lap they can just pace themselves on the delta to ensure they don't lose the time they gain in the places they are weak. So Tinko's the lap's been very solid so far. I haven't seen any major mistakes or anything. It has been clean, and he's hit all the right places of the track. So this is our first Honda reference point, so we'll get to see the differences on our first lap here. Porsche to Honda, just to see if the Honda can really, maximize its first lap and challenge the Porsche. We'll see what Tinko can do here as he goes across the line.
Indeed, we will. So, he comes across the line. That was very, very wide, but I think he manages to keep it in check. That's Fiala you just saw coming across your screen, and it is 0.2 of a second faster. So, Tinko van der Velde currently leading the way for the moment. Now, that does mean we have had a Honda, Porsche, and a BMW, and it is currently Honda, Porsche, BMW within your top three. So there sort of gives you an understanding of what the cars are like. Obviously, there's only one BMW here, so we don't have an opportunity to see another BMW, but we do have an opportunity to see another Porsche and another Honda. Voltec Fiala goes through for his first Super Pole run. A little bit wide on the on the apex of turn 2. That may have cost him a bit to turn 3, but I don't think it would have cost him much. That was very, very wide. You can see him scrambling to get the car back over to the right-hand side to avoid that track cut warning. You see down in the bottom right corner of your screen, there is the on-board from Voltec.
He's wide.
That'll be it. Yeah, that's it.
That's off. Yeah,
that's done and dusted. So he won't be. This will be a lap. It'll still be worth him running it, so he can get understanding of what that time actually was. It'll be good for us if he can finish the lap. That'd be lovely. So we can understand what that sort of time was as well, so we know whereabouts he is compared to Adam. But that would have given him a little bit of time loss. We could probably assume that. I mean, I would say personally around that was about a 10th loss through there.
Yeah, 10th and a half, I think, Dan, there. You never want to get air over those sausage curves. It just ruins your exit. So it would have definitely validated his lap. You can't run that wide without it pinging. So yeah, I think he's just using this as an exercise just to see how far he can push it on that single hot lap when he's just got one lap on the tyres, and then he'll just use it for his second run as experience. But you won't have a reference point, no, so he's going to be going in blind on his second run, and he's just going to have to just drive as hard as he can and hope it's somewhere in the ballpark.
Indeed. Well, what is he going to do? Now, you'll be able to see it at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. You won't see it on the timer tower, but you'll see it in the bottom right. So that was a 32.5, so it would have put him P2. Now, bear in mind, that's with at least a 10th and a half loss of time. At least a 10th. So it's close at the front. Van der Velde needs to watch out. That's going to be a very, very close qualifying time if he's not careful. So, Luke Whitehead Can he make it 2 out of 2? Can he make it? Sorry, this is going to be his opportunity to match Darren McCormack's laps, his championship, for the time attack series. So can he do it? Very, very important question here. Now, we've seen, obviously, the pace he has had. Van der Velde, though, has been, looking at the sort of times, Van der Velde seems to be where he's very, very strong. I can't say anything yet. There's nothing to call it until we see the first laps on the board. But Van der Velde is looking very fast in this Honda.
Yeah, especially in Sector 1. Is extremely quick in Sector 1. The Honda will be quick in Sector 1 with the acceleration anyway, but he's been on it. And to be fair, Tinko was really close to winning at Watkins Glen as well. He was right up there in the Super Pole in the previous finale. So he's on a rich vein of form at the moment, and that lap is a good banker to have. So yeah, pressure's on Luke here to really get that first lap in, because he'll want a strong position for his second run, when he has to go again. So but the speed's there, as Tinko's shown, so we'll just have to see what Luke can achieve.
Indeed, very much so. And good point as well, talking about Sector 1. So Sector 1, Van der Velde is actually, Tinko's ahead in terms of by about a tenth, just over about 101.2 tenths. So he's a pretty aggressive time in that first sector from Whitehead goes through. So he goes through only 0.003 of a second faster than Tarek Adam. So that does mean that Van der Velde, he's 2 tenths up the road. Now, this could very well be indeed a banker. We've got a little bit of time to wait before Robbie Stapleton. In fact, there he is, coming through turn 13 now. In terms of your sector pace, so Sector 1 between Whitehead and Tarek were almost identical between the top two. It's the second sector. To be fair, the third sector, there was a tenth lost in the third sector and over a tenth lost in the second sector. So first sector, Whitehead doesn't need to worry about anything. It's just, unfortunately, the other two sectors that he needs to pick up a little bit of the lap. Yes. Yeah. It's not really a consolation, is it? That's I don't know why I said that. That was pointless.
No, look, the Sector 2 is very difficult to get nailed, because it is actually just 2 corners. It's just the left-hander of, I think, it'll be turn 8, and obviously the turn 10 hairpin. So yeah, they're 2 fiddly corners that you can, clumsy corners that you can easily lose time in if you just don't get the right exit, especially out of the hairpin, because obviously it leads onto the long back straight. So I think he'll look to try and rectify that for his second run. But yeah, we'll just see now what Robbie can do here, because that first lap, half a second off, it's going to be tough for him to challenge a 32.4, but if he can get around that 32.5 that he's done previously, Dan, then he'll be challenging for the podium spots at least.
He certainly will. Currently on the Delta, Robbie Stapleford is just under a tenth up. Now that won't actually adjust anything in terms of his pace from his first lap that he did. Remember, his first lap was 32.9, so he needs to find a little bit of time. He's now over a tenth, almost a tenth and a half, so he's got to find time. That was a much better turn 14 even, much better turn 14, much closer to the apex. Is he managing it? He just keeps it on the exit. Doesn't run too wide. Can he get a little bit more time going through that final corner? That would be him. I think that will be him done and dusted. Yeah, that won't be. Pushed the car. He pushed it very, very aggressively. It's just unfortunate. Oh no, that did count. Did it?
No, it didn't. It did.
It didn't.
No, it didn't. Yeah, it's just that final corner. If it makes or breaks your lap, and if you're just a tiny bit too greedy on the entry there and carry a bit too much entry speed, you can easily just wash out wide. And it's so tempting just to try and just get the exit anyway, and it normally just spits you off onto the sausage curves, which obviously happened there.
Indeed. So Robbie Stapleford out of the podium positions. He won't have an opportunity at all. Now the best he will finish is P4. Now coming through down into Tarek Adams' second lap. Currently P3. His last lap, his first Super Pole lap, was 132.650. So currently P3. He's only got to make up 0.03 of a second, then he'll be in P2. His current lap is identical to his first lap. At the moment, he is absolutely bang on with his current with his previous lap. So he can hold it. He doesn't need to gain too much time, but then he will be certainly what seems to be in a relatively good position. Lap looks to be okay for the moment. Good line through turn 10, manages to get a nice exit. So overall, it's looking pretty good. He's actually a little bit up now. So can he get a little bit more time? There was a little bit of time lost going through turns 13 and 14 we saw. So that's something that we might need to keep an eye out for as he comes through now. Turn 13, uses as much curb as he can on the entry. Runs it really nice and wide. Can he tuck the car in? Yes, he does. Gets a really good rotation going in. Scored a very good rotation indeed. He is up a little bit more on his time. Can he use the exit? That was about as much as you ever dare use. Last corner, can he get a nice last corner sorted? Runs it wide. This is going to be about a 10th quicker. This might even be over a 10th quicker. What is the time that Adams does? Is it going to be valid? I don't even think it's valid.
Oh, it's the penultimate corner. Yeah, penultimate corner, Dan. I did notice that he took a bit too much of the red exit curb there, which Tinko's just gone through that corner there, and it just pinged him straight away. So that 10th and a half he was up there at the exit, that could have got him P2 potentially. He's thrown it away there, unfortunately.
Not good at all. So that is Adam. Well, the best he'll be finishing at the moment will be P number 3. But are we going to see the number 42 Voltec Fiala? Remember, his first lap didn't actually count. So are we perhaps going to see Fiala's second lap be any faster? We'll have to wait and see. We haven't got too long. So Van der Velde now on his second.
He's done the same thing.
Oh no!
Sausage curb again. Yeah.
Pushes the car wide. This is tense, isn't it? They're doing hot laps and yet so tense.
Yeah.
So Van der Velde, that'll be it, done and dusted.
Yeah. So now it's out of his hands now, Dan. This is it. It's basically it's down to where the other two drivers can make or break the lap. You know, that was his one chance to maybe even solidify his advantage and maybe get a little bit more time on Luke to put a bit more pressure on. But now it's out of his hands. That would have invalidated his lap, and he's going to obviously cruise back to the pits now. And yeah, the pressure's on. Pressure's on, Dan. You know, this is it. One lap. You know, when you're trying to extract everything, you just push it that slightly bit too much, and that's the risk you take.
As it always is, the risk you take, it's a very, very important risk, and you've got to take the risk. You know, when the times are, and when the drivers are so close, you have to take that risk. Now, 2 tenths might still be enough. If he could have got another 10th in, that would have been ideal. But obviously, that is the way that it seems to be. Voltec VR, the GTWR Esports number 42 Porsche. Can he make? He's got to make this lap time stick. He hasn't got a delta to go off of, which would drive me absolutely mental, in all honesty. So he hasn't got anything to go off of. He might have potentially someone. He might have an engineer or someone talking to him about his delta. Look how much curb he uses on the entry going into turn number 1. Hooks the curb really nicely through turn 2. I said, argue that's a really clean line through turn 3 as well. Sector 1 seems to be all okay for the moment. Can he get the car hooked around turn 4? Yes, he does. Look like a little bit of a slightly narrower entry than what we've seen before. It's really nice getting these good comparisons.
That was perfectly weighted. That was perfectly judged. So, Dan, it's been a good first sector there. The car looked good, and if I look at the behaviour of the car, he's got it really dancing. So yeah, this should be a fast lap. We know the times there, Dan. He did a 0.5 flat on the invalid lap with the mistake, if you remember. So
very true.
So the lap time is there if he can just hold it together in the final sector.
Very true indeed. As we say, that 0.5 with mistakes, that was a hell of a lap. So if he can make it in, really carried so much speed through turn 8. I don't know if I was the only one that noticed that, but the amount of speed he carried through turn 8 was absolutely astounding. Going down, final few corners left to go. Turn 13 absolutely throws the car in with no mercy at all. Can he get the car hooked up a little bit wide on the apex?
Late,
That would have cost him. I'd probably say it wouldn't cost him more than about a 10th, probably less than that. Can he use? Yep, manages to get it all nice and clean set up. Through the second to last corner, Mazzano corner now, turn number 16, runs it perfectly on the exit. This is going to be a clean lap. What is it going to be? Is Van der Velde going to get knocked off? Yes, he does, by over a 10th of a second. That is Voltec Fiala, 132.312. There's a lap with no mistakes.
Yeah, 100%. And even with that half a tenth where he maybe just took a bit less curb than he wanted to in that hairpin, that may be a high 2 in there if he got it really hooked up. So all the pressure is now on Luke, Dan, and 3 temps is a lot to find in a single lap. Let's see if he can do it.
Indeed. So, one more lap to go for season number 4 at Misano here, powered by SimGrid. Fantastic seeing this format in its 4th season. Turn 4 looks pretty sorted at the moment. Really cutting the curb nicely through turn 5, perfectly through 6 as well. That's about, again, it's really good. This is clean. This is very, very clean.
He's a 10th up here, Dan. There's a good first sector that he's gained the time that he lost in that first sector on the previous lap. So let's see what he can do here in the second sector.
Indeed, runs it wise, loses a little bit of time from himself on going through turn 8, but again, he's being conservative for the moment. He knows where the time is. He knows where he needs to make the time up, but he's not pushing the car. He's not overdriving it, which is not a bad thing. Uses the curb on turn 10. Now he's got a nice run. Again, he drops a little bit of time. He's now just under a 10th away. He's got to have a really clean last couple of sectors here. Bear in mind, he's got to find 3 tenths, and that's going to be a hell of a lot to ask in 3 corners left to go. So he comes through down into turn 13, through 14 as well, manages to get the car rotated very, very nicely. He's up 2.2 or 0.22 tenths of a second. Can he get a really nice exit? This is going to be so close if he can manage it. He's got to get a hell of a run on the exit. Manages to cut it very, very nicely indeed. It's going to be a quick lap time. It's not going to be enough for pole. It is going to be enough for P2. So Fiala goes through half a tenth, separates Fiala and Whitehead. What a finish to season number 4 that is. That was absolutely insane. How come that was ridiculous?
Yeah, it was turn 10 where Luke just lost a little bit of time there on his previous lap. He didn't manage to set a purple middle sector there. He was kind of like a 10th off his best. So he managed to recover by doing a purple final sector and absolutely nailing it. But yeah, it's just that middle sector. If he could just nail that turn 10, it was just a little bit too wide. Lost kind of half a tenth to himself. That was pretty much it. So yeah, Fiala wins it. Finale. That's our season 4 champ.
Indeed, season 4 champion is Voltec Fiala. What a lap. Like I said, we saw that lap, and you know when you see a lap and it's a special lap. Don't get me wrong, this is not detracting at all from anyone else, because there were some absolutely blinding laps here, but when it counted in this last lap, that was absolutely fantastic. It was just that was really I still can't go over how much speed he took to turn it. That was absolutely fantastic.
And he got that 10th and a half that he lost, that we think he lost from that first lap anyway. So that was his pace. He managed to nail it, and he'll be pretty thrilled with that, I think.
Indeed. So, we do have Voltec with us. If we can bring him in. We do have. So, Voltec, thank you very much for joining us. First off, congratulations. All came down to that final lap you did, and what a lap it was indeed. Now, myself and James were talking a little bit. That first lap, even though it was invalid and you hit the curb as well and got airborne for a sizable amount of time, you still managed a 0.5. Which was absolutely fantastic. Did you know there must have been an inkling from yourself that you knew you had time in that?
Yeah, I knew I had so much time in the lap. Even at 0.3, I knew I could do 0.0. So that's like 3 tenths still. So the lap wasn't even great.
Don't rub it in.
I just had to.
But that, absolutely fantastic stuff. In terms of obviously the preparation that you've been putting up to this one, and also as well, how do you find Misano? The car seemed very, very sorted. Really, really. We've seen a couple of Porsches. There were some of the Porsches that we saw today, little bit tail happy. The rear wanted to come around. It was just a little bit, I don't know. It's hard to explain, but your car seemed really, really sorted. Is this just a track car combination that you enjoy? Is it something that you like?
Yeah, I definitely enjoy it, but I'm telling you, the car wasn't easy to drive. I was almost spinning it at fast right every lap. It was insane.
Well, you made it look easy, so that's kudos to yourself. So moving forward, all being well, that there's going to be hopefully a season 5 coming out. Is that something you're going to be continuing with?
Oh, definitely. I love this format. It's perfect for me because I like hot lapping, and it's just exciting.
It seems to be it's a common theme that people really enjoy this format, and it's not done that often, and it's really, really good to see. But that was just absolutely fantastic. A really, really a real joy to watch from yourself and everyone else as well that participated. That was absolutely fantastic. Anyone you'd like to quickly give a shout out to and say hi to on the stream? Volt?
Yeah, I definitely want to give a shout out to Tinka and Luke. Amazing job from them. Yeah.
Fantastic stuff. Absolutely brilliant. No, really well done again, Voltec. And thank you for joining us. And congratulations. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you so much. See ya.
Take care. Well, James, season 4, done and dusted. That was one of the most intense things. On paper, it seems, it's just hot lapping. It's it's so much more than that.
Yeah, I mean, look, I race these guys most weeks, so I know the quality that was in this finale, and yeah, even the very best drivers, a track like Misano that does punish mistakes and track limit abuse. You saw it in the finale. It did make a difference, especially on that last run where Tinko maybe could have put a bit more pressure on the other two guys, slightly making that mistake on the sausage curbs, costing that chance to maybe gain that extra tenth that might have, had Wojtek guessing if he could be P1 or not. So, it made all the difference. It was super fun to watch. I really enjoyed it, and can't wait to be back for the next season.
Certainly, and hopefully I'll be there as well, because that was absolutely fantastic. Before we do wrap up, though, talking about what's coming up next within Coach Dave, we do have, in 2 days' time, on October the 2nd, we have the 6 hours of Road Atlanta. Now that obviously is, as you can see on iRacing at the bottom of your screen, it's GT3s and LMP2s. Basically, it's going to follow the same format as Petit Le Mans, but it is going to be within Coach Dave Academy. Now, I've done a few of Coach Dave Academy's endurance events before. They've been absolutely fantastic. So if you haven't already, please do make sure you get over to the website and check that out and sign up if you haven't already. I'm actually going to be racing in this as well. I might even be commentating. Who knows? I might be dropping in a little bit. We'll have to wait and see. But so we've got 2 to 3 drivers per car. Obviously, a relatively even split between GT3s and LMP2s. A fantastic car combination. Both of these cars, they really suit each other very, very well. LMP2 I have a soft spot for, but the GTs are, again, another fantastic car. So whichever way you look at it, there's going to be some good racing. So yes, if you haven't got involved, please make sure you do so. That is October the 2nd. All of the details you better find on the Coach Dave website. Well, I think, we're going to have to, unfortunately, wrap things up for season number 4. Thank you again to everyone that's been with us for this event, as well as been with Coach Dave and the previous seasons as well. James, our analyst for today, thank you very much for jumping and talking me through and helping me through this format. It's been an absolute pleasure.
You're welcome, Dan. Thank you for having me.
Lovely stuff. Big thanks as well to all the behind-the-scenes crew from Coach Dave, and also a big thanks to Jack as well, that's been sorting out the cameras and providing visual enjoyment for yourselves watching this stream. And finally, thank you to everyone that's been watching. Without you guys, there would not be a stream. But we are going to wrap it up there. Thank you all for watching once again. And as always, take care. Stay safe.